if you're the kind of person who says you don't want politics in your games, you should just skip this one. I'm not going to put the title up. We're going to talk about some stuff that may bother you. They shouldn't, but we'll disagree on that one. So I want to talk about something that was recently said. And it was said by a person who I've met, Grant Linehan. Grant Linehan, if you don't know, was the creator of the IT Crowd, Father Ted, a bunch of British comedy stuff. He's also was on the Alan Partridge show with one of the farmers. I got to learn that because we went out to the pub one night and went drinking because we were talking about doing a crossover with the IT Crowd and Left 4 Dead. And at the time, I thought that was a great idea. I loved the IT Crowd, and I still do. It still holds up. It's still a good show, and really liked it. He's since turned into this horrible human being. Since then, he has gone on a transphobic tirade. And he's recently said something, and I think the great thing about what he said was it so clearly shows you how wrong he is. Because you can talk about social stuff, you can talk about stuff that takes over 30 years, and it gets this mushy thing, and it's hard to have this is a fact, right? But here is a fact. He said, in his latest interview, he says, trans people produce no art, and there are no great trans films, musics, or books. Okay, that is 100% false. I'm going to start with The Matrix. Right? The Matrix was made by Lana and Lily Wachowski. Okay, so trans artists made The Matrix. You can argue all you want about The Matrix, but I think it's pretty successful. The other one, I'm going to say the later ones, but the first one, all right. And then when we get to video games, we can get to something like Mule, which is, just if you've never played Mule, so it's this classic original game, Daniel Buntenberry, right? But let's just talk more direct. My favorite game, the game that I hold dear to my heart, that I love greatly, would not exist if it wasn't for trans engineers, and that's the Anacrusis. And so when somebody says this, they're wrong. They are wrong. They are trying to normalize this hate against this group of people for whatever reason. And they've decided that this is a safe group to hate. And the reason it's a safe group to hate is because it makes some people uncomfortable who aren't even against them. You may not be transphobic, but when you meet some trans people, you may be uncomfortable because you're not sure how to, you may make a mistake of how you talk. It's a complicated thing, right? It is a thing, especially for older people, that's hard. I think one of the great things, I'm going to be the old man here and say the younger generation is this acceptance of non-binary and not putting things pigeonholed and being way more open to discussions about this where a lot of trans people are way more comfortable coming out, but still not always. Now, I understand this because I worked in musical theater in the early 90s. I worked in ballet, and a lot of the people I worked with, they were gay. And at the time, in fact, at one point, I was the only straight person of our little group, and so they called me Breeder Man, and they were making me a Breeder Man costume because I was the only one to have sex to breed. Now, they, among friends and everybody, were open, but when we were out and about, they would often talk in code. And one of the things was, do you think that person's a member of the church? Are they gay? Right? Because they didn't want to talk about it openly because there was such a stigmatism because of AIDS around gay people. And so I remember once watching the news, Wilma Smith on Channel 8, saying that you could get AIDS if a gay person's on the plane with you, right? And so now we're seeing this about trans people, and the way that they try to talk horrifically about this is they always mention children, because being trans or being gay, being white, being black isn't something you choose, it's something that happens to you. And much like you just don't turn white when you're 18, you don't turn trans when you're 18, right? This is something that's part of you. And this is why I've done some work for the charity Trevor Project, because I think it's really important that people going through this struggle and understanding have somebody to talk to. Now, much like when you found out you were white, whatever age, you didn't instantly start having sex. The same thing's happening here. This isn't about sex. This is about identity, right? It is about understanding who you are and having that safe space to be who you are, right? Because that's what we always want. No matter what your feelings are on things, is being acceptable to people so they can be who they are, so that you can have an understanding of them, right? As long as, don't give me this, oh yeah, then they should be Nazis or whatever. Get bent. You know what I'm talking about. Don't make false arguments like that. right? But you want to have that because that's like those people's ability to express themselves is what's interesting, right? And this is why I'd actually argue some great work comes from there, and definitely in the game industry, you will see a lot of trans people engaging because it is accepting industry. That is, if you can do the work, if you can do the art, if you can make these things that we all love, it's hard work. And so there's a lot of like, we don't, we want everyone in it together. And so when you hear these people speak who are anti-trans, who are trying to demonize these things or make up these false narratives of what this is about, remember, they say statements like this, that trans people have made no art. And that's just false. And you could look at that and you could look at the examples that they're false. And so as wrong as they are about that, they are as wrong about everything else. Okay?